Welcome to How I Broke That.
Jamie Weeks always knew that he wanted to work hard and he wanted to make money. But it wasn't until his mid-30s in a life-changing event that this breaker broke from working for cash for himself to working to create a culture of happiness for his employees. In this episode of How I Broke That, you'll learn how Weeks turned a rough situation at home growing up into a reason to be dedicated to exceptional work ethic. Why Weeks left his full-time job to open his first OrangeTheory franchise, and how that has led him to owning 140 plus OT studios today, and how culture building has become the signature stamp of this energetic and exceptionally successful entrepreneur who works and plays 24/7, 365. Breakers band together and be attentive as Jamie Weeks takes us on his journey of breakage and brilliance. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. That intro was quite the intro. It's gonna be hard to live up to that, Josh. That was amazing. Thank you.
I think it's you. I think it is you. And I got to tell you, man, I'll be very honest with you. I've done a few of these things, and I've spent a lot of time preparing for this because I think you have a really, really interesting story. What I have found is one common thread, though, among entrepreneurs who are successful like you, and I'm going to paint a broad picture here, though,
Yeah.
is that you weren't the best student growing up, and you needed to rely on your work ethic, your ability to talk to people, your golf.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. And you're exactly right. I wasn't a great student. I just didn't enjoy school. And I don't think it was and I think there's a lot of people like myself who go through the motions of school. And I'm not saying I didn't learn anything. I definitely did, but it was really kind of a way for me to figure out my path. And I wasn't going to be an accountant. I wasn't going to be a doctor. I could have been an attorney if it wasn't for the schoolwork, because I could argue with anybody, still
Right.
could, and debate with anybody. But yeah, I do think that my focus was always I never minded hard work, and that definitely came from my parents. And I never minded rolling up my sleeves and getting in the weeds and doing whatever I had to do. But when it came to schoolwork, oh boy,
Yeah.
that was harder than any ditch I had to dig, by
Okay.
far.
So let's touch on that part with your parents. And
Yeah,
you're an only child, right?
right,
So talk
right.
about being an only child, and if you can, give us a glimpse into
Yeah.
growing up in your house.
Yeah, my dad worked in retail sales and was worked retail hours, and so it was a lot of weekends and a lot of nights and worked extremely hard. My mother had multiple sclerosis, and so she was in a wheelchair for the majority of my life and used a
Mm.
walker, and so it was a lot of afternoons coming home from school, and before I went to golf practice or basketball practice or soccer practice or whatever it was, it was helping her kind of get ready for the evening and get whatever she needed, and then go to practice and come back. And I really think that that seeing my father working so hard to provide for us, and then combined with my mom struggling but being one of the funniest and happiest people in the world, even though she struggled every single day, it kind of, you don't have a choice but to always have that glass half full.
Mhm.
And when you're glass half full and working really hard, it's amazing what can happen. And so that was a big part of my life, of just working hard, helping others and helping her, and watching how hard my dad worked. I think that really kind of shaped a lot of my future.
What role did golf play in your life growing up?
That's it. That's something, Josh. It's a great question, and not something I've thought about probably as much as I should be thinking about it, or have thought about it. Right? It was one of those things where
The hair looks good. You're good. Hair looks
yeah,
good.
I need a haircut bad, and so I
It's all
was
good.
struggling. Plus, this camera's reverse, and so I'm struggling with the part.
We got you.
um, so
Golf.
listen, it's an individual sport. You're on a team, but it's still an individual sport, right? And it golf has a little bit of that chip on your shoulder kind of thing, and it's you against the world. It's you against the golf course, and it's that fight and that internal fight. And golf's also a thing where the harder and faster you go, the worse you play. You have to slow down and you have to be patient. And I've always gone with speed, 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 speed. Even when I was a kid, schoolwork, whatever it was, I got a fast golf swing. I play fast, all those things. But it really taught me to slow down and be patient. And again, I was great on team sports, but being an individual sport, golf really kind of gives you a great foundation. I mean, it's you. You don't. There's no one to blame. It's all you.
Right. I have taken golf back up. I took about 15 years off. I was on the golf team in high school, started playing again, and I'm with you. It's amazing. And this, I feel like bleeds into business of
Yeah.
harder you swing, the more
Yep.
you think about it, the worse you're
Yep.
going to play. And in
Yep.
business, it's like, and one of my favorite things in golf that I never knew, but learned from my amazing coaches, hit down on the ball. Who
Yep.
would have thought? Of course, you got to hit up on the ball, do the opposite, And I
Golf
think
is a
that
game of
helps them.
opposites, right? If you swing to the left, the ball goes to the right. If you swing to the right, the ball goes to the left. The other thing that I think is the most telling thing about golf is all you have to do is look at your divot and you can tell exactly what happened.
Right.
And it's almost like looking at history, right? You look back at history and say, well, this is what happened, so therefore this is what's probably going to happen going forward. Yeah, golf's an amazing sport for children to learn. There's so many things to learn in the game of golf, and it had a huge impact on my life. I played college golf and then played a little bit of golf after, not much, but yeah, I owe a lot of my life to golf, and it's taught me so many lessons. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's kind of fast forward through your first job and what that first job was and how long it lasted.
Yeah, so all through college, I worked at 2 golf courses. I went to a small school in Montgomery, Alabama, Huntington College, and at the time, I think it had 1,000 students, give or take, and I went there on a golf scholarship. And it was great for me because my biggest class was 12 or 13 people,
Mhm.
and so I couldn't disappear. I mean, I had to be in class. If I was in class, people knew it.
Right.
And so again, I worked my way through college at Wind Lakes Golf Course and Montgomery Country Club. I worked at both of them. And then after college, I worked at Wind Lakes, and one of my top mentors in my life is there and still there today. His name is Brent Krause, and he's a golf pro. I think he's the general manager of the club, but he's so much more than that. And he taught me a lot about detail. He taught me almost everything. I'm extremely detailed about certain things. It's pretty interesting. There's some things I don't need to be detailed about, and I just kind of let it go. But the things where I get in the weeds on, it comes from him. He taught me how to be really detailed and get in the weeds on certain items. You can't be in the weeds on everything, but you got to pick and choose what you need to be in the weeds on. And he taught me that. And I was there until I think I was probably 23 or 24. And then I got into the investment world and worked at AG Edwards. The old, I don't think AG Edwards are around anymore. I think they were bought by Raymond James. But I worked there for a couple of years and enjoyed it. And then I was recruited to be a wholesaler, mutual fund wholesaler, and moved to Atlanta. And so I did that at 24, and then kind of my career took me from there.
And you mentioned the move to Atlanta also kind of involved golf, right? I mean, were you expected to play?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I played a lot of business golf and a lot of casual golf, and business golf is a lot more fun than the golf I'd played for 20 years of my life.
Right.
And so, no doubt, built a ton of relationships playing golf, and again, yeah, my girls are 14 and 15, and this is their first year of like, we're going to play 9 holes. Like, we're going to hit balls and play 9 holes. And I say to them, I'm like, listen, if you can just get around the course and enjoy this, you just won't believe the relationships and the fun you can have for 4 hours on a golf course. It's just some of my best memories on a golf course, as I'm sure with you and a lot of people listening, that's some of my best memories in life are on a golf course.
Yeah, we're just teaching our daughter how to play, and I don't think we've gotten up to 9. We've probably gotten to 7 or 8, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting that you talked about that really impressed me and kind of inspired me was that you kept saying, as you had stops in your career, that you were always overpaid and appreciated that.
Yeah.
So talk about, why do you think you were overpaid, and why do you think that you then had to, overcompensate in a good way?
Right. Josh, I've always, and I think anyone that's ever known me will say that I've always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. And I think part of that comes from, and I think a lot of successful people do, right? And I think a lot of that comes from not being a great student in high school or in college, and just never really feeling worthy for what someone was paying me. And when I never felt worthy for it, it made me want to work harder to prove that they were making the right choice or whatever it was. And so, Yeah, I will tell you that, especially at UBS, working for Barry Mananak and Jeff Cerruti, who were two amazing mentors to me, and we were there during a great time as well. But I did very well, and just couldn't believe, my wife and I couldn't believe that they were paying us the kind of money they were paying us, which back in 2002, 2003, compared to now, it doesn't sound like that much money, but to us it
Yeah.
was, And so I just I never wanted to lose that, and I wanted them to know how appreciative I was, and I showed that by putting in 70, 80 hours a week and just doing whatever I had to do to make sure they knew that.
Yeah. And then it was around that time when you were 35 that you lost your mom, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
that's, that was kind of the life-changing experience that I referenced here in the intro. And why did that have such a profound influence on you? And what was the transformation that you had?
hmm Yeah, I mean, listen, we all have dealt with difficult things in the past, and for me, that moment, up to age 35, my focus personally was on money and things. And I don't want anyone to think for a second that my focus today is not money and things. It's not my focus what it was. It's nowhere near what it used to be, right? And I think I just when I lost her and I saw someone who had given her whole life to other people, especially myself and my dad, it was just one of those things where I didn't feel like I was giving to other people the way that I should be. And so while that was a pivotal moment, it took me years from 35 to probably 37, 38 to really discover that culture and caring more about other people than I care about myself is really how you're going to build lifelong friendships, lifelong love, and lifelong businesses and culture where people can thrive and be happy instead of this me first, me first. It's so, and by the way, I'm still an extremely selfish person, and I
Mhm.
fight with it every single day. And I think that's something we all fight with. I think we all fight with a bit of being selfish at times. But I just pick and choose when I'm going to be selfish, and I try to wake up every day, and I am in no way a martyr in any way, or a saint in any way. But I try to wake up every day and try to my days about other people versus making it about myself. I kind of look at it like I had 35 years of making it by myself. Surely I can put in another 35 and making it
Right.
for other people, and then I'll figure out what the next 35 look like.
Is there something that you do without digging too deep into your personal life? But is there
Yeah.
something that you do? Do you do transcendental meditation? Do you journal? Is there something that you can tell the
hmm
entrepreneurs and the breakers out there that, like, hey, this works for me? Don't know if it worked for you, but this works for me.
hmm I list the things I'm grateful for every single day in my notes, and I just have one page in my notes in my phone that I list those things. And there are some days where I just look at it and say, "Yep, that's great," and then the next day maybe I add something or take something away or whatever it is. For me, I have meditated, and I meditated a couple of years ago, and I did it quite a bit. And I've said to my family here when we get back to Atlanta next week that I'm going to dive right back into it. I miss that 15 minutes every day that I had in the mornings. I really miss it. It's hard to do here, but I got to find time and do it. But and I've done some journaling and I enjoy it. But for me, it's just listing those things that I'm grateful for. And by the way, it could be the smallest little things. It doesn't always have to be a big, thought-provoking, loving idea. It could be Topo Chico. It could be air conditioning. It could be whatever, right? But starting off your day with gratefulness every day, cool. I'll tell you what, man, that'll get some things right pretty quick.
It does. And so clearly you have an ability to do some self-reflection.
Yeah.
And at some point, although you said this was a buildup, you kind of took a step back, even though you enjoyed your time at UBS and Morgan Stanley, and said, I think I want to own something. I think
Yeah.
I want to start something. That's how I'm going to really kind of make it. Talk about that buildup and how you finally made that decision.
Yeah. It's a scary thought, right? I think it was a combination of a lot of things, right? And I look back on it all the time and I think, man, I am crazy to take that kind of risk. What was I thinking? And now I take more risks than I've ever taken in my life. Um, I've always had the voice of being a leader, and I never was in a position to lead. And I mean that of on a golf team, you're still an individual sport, so it's hard to be a leader. In college, I was a part of groups, but hard to be a leader in college, and people follow you. And then in the business world, I was a sales guy and kind of in my own world. And it was just, everything's kind of been about just kind of, and I think that's where a little bit of the selfishness came from. It was just about me. Everything I did was about me. So why would I make it about other people? Two things happened is that I've always dreamt of being a business owner or an entrepreneur. And then I started seeing the financial side of it and the opportunity there, and then discovered franchising and how franchising would, someone has a business plan that they've done pretty well with. And I'm not the dumbest person in the world, not the smartest, but I'm definitely not the dumbest. And can I get in there and fine tune a couple things and make it a little better? And so I think all of those combine into, okay, you may not invent, whatever, invent something, but you can take a franchise idea and fine tune it to be to you. And where I'm at now is our fine tuning is in the culture and operations. But if we have the right culture, boy, those operations get really good really quick. And so that's kind of our discovery.
Yeah. So, we're about halfway through our journey here. And the only thing I point out that the part that you didn't necessarily mention was the dad bod part was also kind of beginning to rear its ugly head, right? So you were spending some time, in some gyms, group fitness, right?
Yeah. I just wasn't ready. I didn't know you want to get into that detail, but we definitely can. I mean, when I discovered that I wanted to kind of break out from having a great job and working for a big company and kind of do something on my own, at the time, Flywheel had opened in Atlanta in Buckhead, and I was in that class a lot, and I just could not believe there were 50, 55 people in class paying $25, $30 for a class, and I couldn't get in. You couldn't get into a class. There were 12 classes a day. And I just was like, listen, let's do the math on this. And so started looking around and seeing different things we could do, discovered OrangeTheory. And you're right. I was at the time, I was 37, 38, 39 years old and running to a dad bod as fast as I could. I was running to a dad bod before dad bod was cool. I'm not saying I discovered I'm the first, but I definitely led the charge.
Cool. You're a leader.
Yeah.
Just like you said.
I'm a leader, again, back to being a leader of the dad bod movement. And have not relinquished that, unfortunately.
That's okay.
And so, yeah, it's fine. And so for me, when I discovered OrangeTheory, the thing that I loved the most about it was it was non-intimidating. And to this day, that's still, I think, where OTF has a secret sauce is it's one of the least intimidating health, wellness, and fitness routines out there. And there's so many things out there that are intimidating, and they've done an amazing job with it.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a commercial for OrangeTheory, Capitol Hill, but love that place.
It's amazing.
So, but here's the thing, man. A lot of people, I love OrangeTheory, but I didn't go out and buy 3 licenses. So let's start going down that road. You're working out. You looked around. You talked about doing a little CrossFit. I was with you. We're kind of the same age. I'm like, why am I lifting all this weight? This is so stupid. My knee is going to blow. It blew. So you went all in, at least 3 licenses on OT. So start us on that track, please.
Yeah. So started negotiating with the franchisor, got 3 licenses for the Atlanta area in areas that were growing and decent, not Buckhead, not home run areas, but good areas. And had worked out with a guy, Mike Mayer at CrossFit, and had said to him, he had worked in the fitness industry before, and said to him, hey, I want you to come try one of these classes. He's a big, ripped up guy. And he's like, OrangeTheory, isn't that for women? I was like, dude, I don't know. I have no idea. I've been doing it. I love it. But you're right. There are a lot of girls in there, but I have no clue.
Right.
So we're on the treadmill for like 15, 20 minutes. And he looks over me and he's like, dude, I'm dying. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I was like, I told you. And so I said, yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so I said, listen, I think I'm going to open some of these, and I've never been in the fitness industry, but would you consider coming to help me open these and work for me? He's like, absolutely. And so he was our first hire. And so we opened December 23rd, 2014, our very first one. And I had made an Excel sheet, Josh, that went to a certain member level. And I was like, man, if we get to this member level, we have crushed it. And by March, I looked at Mike and I said, we need a new Excel sheet. We're way past what I thought we were going to do.
Wow.
And I was funding this myself, and went and bought more licenses. And I worked with a guy named Brian Singer at UBS, and he is very well thought of in the financial industry, investment industry. He's one of the people that wrote the study that 91.5% of all returns are derived from asset allocation. And he said to me one day, he's like, Jamie, if you ever, you're going to get 3 or 4 chances in your life to hit a home run in investing. And when you come across those times, you have to go all in. Like you can't tiptoe in, you got to go all in. And so I went all in and started buying licenses. I bought Chattanooga, bought more of Atlanta. And then our studios were doing really well. And I had never really met Dave Long and Ellen and all of them. And I think Dave Long called me and said, would you have any interest in Oregon and being the area developer for Oregon? And I had never been to Oregon. And I said, yeah, I'll buy it. I'll take it. And so I bought it sight unseen and took it and said, well, I mean, it's people indoors working out in a place that rains 9 months out of the year. And it's a top 5 fitness city in America at the time. Like, surely we can make this work. And it turned out being one of the best decisions we made. And then, we get to 2017. I don't know if you want me to keep going or you want me to stop.
No, keep rolling. I have a feeling I know where this story's going. If you can, do me a favor and stop pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. We get to 2017 and I'm like, well, I got 12 of these and I've got another 25 licenses, I think, maybe 30 licenses. So we had white space to about 35 or 36 studios. And I said, let's take it to market and see if we can't sell it. And so I was the first inside OrangeTheory to go to market. And I'm really glad I did. We set a really high bid, a really high marker for everybody. And it helped a lot, I think, the other people that sold after us. And I was able to get a partner in Prospect Hill, which was a blessing of all blessings. We got 9 bids on the business, all great partners to look at. And we picked the one that I picked the one that I thought I'd get along with the best through hard times and good times and hard times. And boy, when I say we had the good times, but I was not expecting a global pandemic to define that.
Yeah. You talk about partners and the good times and the hard times, and it can be tough. It can be tough. Yeah. And I experienced that in my second business, and it really kind of broke the camel's back for everybody. It led to good things, I think, but it definitely was tough. You talk about going all in, okay, so you self-finance some of these, and I'm sure your wife's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, she was like, what are you doing?
There's going all in and there's going all in. What happened during the pandemic when you really grabbed some chips at the table?
Yeah. So, I'll never forget March 16th, 2020. I think all of us will. That's when, a lot of stuff really shut down and we really kind of realized, hey, this is pretty serious. And I said to Prospect Hill on a board call, I said, listen, we've got to keep paying our people, and everyone agreed. And so a couple interesting stories from that I think your listeners would get a lot out of. One of our board members, chairman at the time, Bill Watts, who was the former CEO and chairman of Mattress Firm and GNC, and built and grew those businesses tremendously. And Joe Fortunato, who's the chairman of Sprouts, I think he still is the chairman of Sprouts. I said, hey, listen, we want to keep paying our employees as long as we have to. And they said, we totally agree. I said, we'll put money back in, whatever we got to do. After the call, Bill called me and said, hey, listen, Jamie, you're making the right decision based on your heart. It's the right thing to do. He's like, but I've seen this play out before, and the government is going to make unemployment so good that people aren't going to want to go back to work. And I was just like, all right, Bill, whatever. I have no clue what you're talking about, but whatever you say.
Right.
And fast forward, 9 months, we start reopening places, and people can't find employees because unemployment's so good. And we paid everybody. So we were in a great spot and didn't have to go hire a bunch of people. And that was amazing. And so we get to, December of 20, and Jeff Teschke, who's the operating partner at Prospect Hill and has turned out being one of my close friends, he's like, I got an idea and I think you're going to hate it, but I need you to think about it. I was like, man, I'm 9 months into this. Can you just give me like a day to just let me live. He's like, I think we need to go raise some capital and start buying some OrangeTheories. And I was like, bro, that is the worst idea I have ever heard in my entire life. Like that is, yeah, I say that a lot. I was like, that is definitely the worst idea I've ever heard in my entire life. And he was like, Jamie, you and I both know that in times like this, it's dislocation. Now's the time we have to do this. And so I agreed. I was like, listen, let's go raise. And we had set a standard of what we would raise. And it was not a crazy amount of money. It was a lot. I prefer not to say the amount, but it was, between $15 and $30 million. And so we go out and start having conversations with a lot of PE firms, and I was doing 4 to 6 hour Zooms with some amazing firms, people that I highly, highly respect, that are big, well-known names. And after a couple of weeks of doing this, they came back and said, yeah, we'd really like to invest in Honors and Jamie, but we're gonna have to, we've got a minimum and it's gonna be this. And it was 3-4 times the amount of money we were looking for. And I was just like, man, this is a whole different level of risk. But I was like, listen, what's the difference between taking $25 million and $100 million? I mean, if we're going to go all in, we might as well go all in. Yeah. So we were fortunate to partner with KSL. They're an amazing partner for us. And we went out and acquired. We've got to be, I don't know this. I don't know this to be a fact, so I'm just saying this, right? But we've got to be one of the only privately held fitness companies to double their business during a pandemic. I mean, we went from 72 studios to 130 from March of 21 until July of 21 in a 5-month period in the midst of the pandemic. And so that was a big risk. But we were with the right culture and the right operations. It didn't feel like a huge risk because we had done it before. Remember, they bought me when we had 12 studios, and in March of 20, so they bought me in December of 17. In March of 20, we had 70. And so we had acquired a bunch, we had built a bunch, we knew we were doing. A little different in the pandemic. Now we're going to areas where we don't really know the area as well. But culture is culture. If you've got the right culture, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Truth be told, I super appreciate that when I reached out to you on LinkedIn, you were like, yeah, let's do this. My business partner, Michael, and I he's been in the Subway franchise world a bit, and we're thinking about, kind of going in a little more on it. Yeah. And so this is super helpful to hear because it sounds like, the idea of culture and operations, you get it right, you pour gasoline on it.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. But what is it about you that UBS and those guys were willing to overpay, and Prospect Hill was like, yeah, we're all in, we're and other people saying, no, we're not just going to do 25, we're going to do 100 million. Yeah. What do you think that they see in you that it's like, well, I'll give you mine. What do you think it is?
Well, I definitely don't think it's what they see in me. I think that, with UBS, I think each one has a different answer, right? I think, and actually UBS and Prospect Hill probably would have the same answer. And I think Barry Maninack at UBS, who is probably my number one mentor my whole life, and Jeff Teschke, who's up there as a top 4 at Prospect Hill, they would both tell you that there's not going to be many people who are going to out hustle me. I'm going to work until my hands bleed. We're just going to go as hard as we can. I think the other thing also, Josh, and I think you'd agree, is, book smarts versus common sense. And when you have really, really good common sense and a really good culture, I can make really fast decisions and make a mistake and correct it really quickly. And so I think both of those things are really high attributes to go with speed, with the right people, and that's pouring gasoline on it. And I think that KSL and all the other firms that wanted to invest at the time, I also think they saw maybe it was less about Jamie and Honors and much more about dislocation in the market, opportunity, and that. But I don't know. You have your thoughts of what you think.
I mean, what I see is like you said, somebody who is not necessarily book smart, but who gives a shit at that point. But you have this, I think, an interesting mix, and you have to, of your own personal smarts and the ability to take risk, and when to take those risks. You know when to pull out the driver and try and take it 350 yards, go over the lake, as opposed to just hitting 150.
Yeah, that's a great listen. I don't think enough people talk about, like, we have all these podcasts and books and everything about everything under the sun, but very little talk about risk taking and the importance of being very selective in your risk taking. And there are times, I mean, like I'll tell you, this defines it perfectly. My personal and mine and my wife's personal wealth is in cash CDs and 2-year treasuries. 100%. I mean, we have some real estate, but 100% cash CDs into your treasuries. And it's not because of what's going in the market. That's the way it's been. I've missed so much upside the last God knows how long, but I would rather take risk on me and things that I can control and investments, whether it's Sweat House, whether it's Dogtopia, whether it's OrangeTheory, no matter what it is, I want to take my risk there versus in something that I can't control. And so that, to me, defining the risk you want to take and how you want to take it and when you want to take it is a conversation that I think more people should have.
And then accepting, hopefully it goes well, but a lot of times it can also go poorly.
Dude, I've had so many things fail. We could do a 4-hour podcast. That's right. That's exactly right. We could do podcast after podcast on missed opportunities and failures. Yeah.
How do you pick your ass up after that?
I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah. That's a very entrepreneur answer there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a choice. We just got to keep going. Failure, when you have a chip in your shoulder and you want to succeed, you kind of look at failure as just another cog in the wheel, right? It's going to happen. But I really enjoy failure because, like at a Sweat House where we've got 11 studios open now over the last 3 years. When I tell you I have thrown everything against the wall to see what works, like we try everything. Even in July, we did a bunch of stuff that we had never done before, and we tried everything, and they failed. Like in July, we did some things that made no sense, but I'm so glad we did it because now we're going forward. We're like, oh, we tried it. It doesn't work. This is what we're going to do now. And so I think I'm a big fan of trying a bunch of different things and taking risk in a lot of areas. It's not huge risk, but that's the only way I'm going to learn.
Right. How does that filter from you down to your team? And then as you fail for better, you don't let the company culture suffer.
Josh, if you're ever in Atlanta, when you walk in our office, the first thing you're going to see is a craps table. I bought a craps table from the Sands Casino. I was going to turn it into a board table and put glass on top of it. And on Friday afternoons, we play craps. And no one in the office knows how to play craps. And we don't play for money. We just play craps. A lot of times we'll have people roll dice to see what time we leave in the day, right? If they roll 7 or 11, we stay till 5. If they roll 2, 3, 12 craps, we leave at 3. And everyone always leaves at 3 anyway. So it never works out that way. But the team, I hire people that are risk takers. I try to hire people that have that entrepreneur spirit that want to take risks. I will tell you, my finance and accounting team is not risk. They are not risk takers. HR, not a risk taker. Marketing, risk taker. National sales, risk taker. Head of coaching, risk taker. So we've got to find the people in the right places. Mirko, my CFO at Honors, is not a risk taker. I don't want my CFO to be a risk taker. Let me be the risk taker, right? And so we got to pick our battles. Yeah,
no, that's true, and that's the love-hate relationship I have with Michael, who I reference. He's not necessarily the risk taker, which is why, we balance each other out. I am the risk taker in that relationship. Right. Well, listen, man, you kind of took a risk on replying to my cold LinkedIn message.
No, not a risk at all.
I appreciate you being on and being so candid. I think here at the end, I always want people to walk through the steps with you of your life, and then we're able to kind of open it up, and just swing for the fences. And when we get into the breakage and the failure and the acceptance, I think that's really useful stuff, which is why I do this show, because I want people to know that it's okay to get broken. You're going to get back up. And as you said, you don't have a choice.
Listen, Josh, I've done a lot of podcasts. I got to tell you, you asked me questions that no one has asked me. And so I really appreciate that. And this was a lot of fun. So thanks for the time.
Good, man. I'm going to run out to OrangeTheory here in Washington, D.C. You've inspired me.
Awesome. All right. Have fun. Take it easy.
Thank you very much.
You got it.
Thanks for listening. Next time on How I Broke That.